Hey, thank you for tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we have done it again. We have put together another informative, educational show for you. Look, we are going behind the scenes and getting the information directly from the source. Not from family members, not from friends, not from co-workers, but directly from the source. And you say, what information? Freemasons. Who are they? Are they a secret society? What is their purpose? And not only are we going to look into Freemasons, but we're going to take it another level and look into Prince Hall Freemasons. So sit back, relax, and let's go on this informational, educational journey together.
My name is Samuel Thomas King. I am the Most Worshipful Grand Master of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge, Free and Accepted Masons of the state of California. Prince Hall Masonry was established in the United States before the writing of the Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution was written and signed September 17th, 1787. The document would not become binding until it was ratified by 9 of the 13 states. On June 21st, 1788, it was ratified and became official, the United States Constitution.
Prince Hall, a free black man and owner of property in the Cambridge, Massachusetts area, desired to become a Freemason. On attempting to unite with several Caucasian lodges in the Cambridge area of Boston, he was unsuccessful. And he then approached a regiment of Irish soldiers, a foot unit attached to the British Army that was located in Cambridge at the time, and requested to become a Freemason.
The British Army had many Mason brothers. Field Marshal Lord Combermere, who was a Mason, said, "I have known many soldiers who were Masons, but never knew a good Mason who was a bad soldier."
He and 14 other men of color were then accepted into this lodge and were established as the first men of color to receive the degrees of Masonry on the American continent.
Prince Hall and 14 other black men were initiated into Masonry by members of Lodge number 441 of the Grand Lodge of Ireland, March 6, 1775. The lodge was attached to the British forces stationed in Boston, Massachusetts.
Since that time, the regiment that he originally became a member of was moved to New York and left the Brothers of Color with only a permit that only allowed them to meet on St. John's Day, to march, and to bury their dead.
The most important function of a Masonic lodge is to bury their dead. The Masonic funeral service is the most important act of compassion and service that a Mason body can perform for a Freemason and his family.
Prince Hall, having the desire to be more than what they were left with, wrote a letter to the Grand Lodge of England requesting that they be given a full charter. And explaining that they were left with just a permit to walk and bury their dead, and he desired more. So he wrote this letter to the Grand Lodge of England. England, receiving the letter, agreed. The proper fees were then sent to England to receive their charter. However, the money never reached England.
The fee was £5, 15 shillings, and 6 pence, $6.67 to $7. Prince Hall then sent the fee a second time, trusting it to Captain James Scott, the brother-in-law of then Governor John Hancock, one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. John Hancock was a Freemason. Captain Scott arrived in England, received the charter, returned it to Prince Hall in 1787, and the establishment of the first black lodge on the continent of America, being named African Lodge No. 1, later changed to African Lodge 459. Prince Hall sent a letter of receipt to England, stating, "By the grace of God, I will endeavor to fulfill all that is required of me of this charter, and I shall make the Constitution my guide."
From Prince Hall, all of what we are today flourished. All of the East Coast, various states came to Boston with the desire of becoming Masons and establishing lodges in their own jurisdictions.
Prince Hall placed top importance on education. He mandated that all Masons had a duty to ensure their children received the education that they themselves had not. He encouraged the creation of schools for blacks. 4,239 schools have been created between 1865 and 1870, permitting the schooling of 247,333 African American children. The pioneers in the field of education were Booker T. Washington and William Edward Burghardt, also known as W.E.B. Du Bois. Because of their community involvement, both men were made Master Masons on the spot. Du Bois was a political activist and founder of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP.
Many things can be said about Prince Hall. He was one of the first landowners in the Cambridge, Massachusetts area who was black. He worked as a leathersmith, but yet he was also one of the first civil rights fighters back in his age and time. He fought to have black children educated. He opened a school for adult African Americans to teach them how to read and write. He also addressed George Washington on several occasions to prevent the stealing of freed men from the Cambridge, Massachusetts area who were stole and shipped back into slavery. He went to George Washington, and Washington, hearing his plea, spoke to the governor of Virginia, who captured a ship in its docks that had freed black men from Boston, Massachusetts on it. Those men and women were released and brought back to Boston.
George Washington was a Freemason. Beginning in 1773, Prince Hall wrote multiple letters to the Senate requesting the House of Representatives and the Senate end the slave trade and slavery.
Prince Hall is an icon in African American history, yet not written in its books. It is a story that should be spread and told.
Many African American men sought membership in Masonry. Although the Caucasian Masons had many Ku Klux Klan members, they were limited in their act against men of color that were Masons. Churches of Masons were not burned down. Richard Allen of Lodge 459 was the first bishop and founder of the African Episcopal Methodist Church. Other African American men held similar positions and duties. Many African American men owned land and businesses. Harriet Tubman of the Underground Railroad used the homes, businesses, and churches of African American Masons because of the security, safety, and brotherhood. Unlike the traditional Masons, Prince Hall Masonry has stayed true to its original origin of religious belief. Although Masonry is not a religion, many African American Masons were pastors, ministers, or members of a church, as was Prince Hall. Most Prince Hall lodges in America has the Holy Bible in the middle of their lodge, and many biblical scriptures and principles are involved in Prince Hall Masonry.
After the death of Prince Hall in 1807, the African Grand Lodge was renamed after its founder, the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Boston, Massachusetts. No, the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of the state of Massachusetts. Since its inception, Grand Lodges have been established all over the United States, in every country. There are now currently 47 Grand Masters covering 51 states of the United States. Primarily because my mother insisted that I should join the Order of Freemasonry. I had to ask why, and then I received that my grandfather and my great-grandfather were members of Prince Hall Masonry back in Louisiana. Being able to be with senior black men that were willing to teach not just Masonry, but what manhood was about, how a man should act. The organization began to kind of grow on me into the sense of, and shaping me as a man, of doing those things that were right, those things that were honorable.
I've never been part of any type of big group, but being a Prince Hall Freemason, I'm part of a positive brotherhood, doing things for the community, it's a lot of love, a lot of God-fearing other individuals, brothers.
Masonry has allowed me to definitely fulfill a part of myself that I felt was left empty by conjoining and convening with other brothers that have often supported me in times where I felt like I didn't have a leg to stand on. I've been able to call Masons at 2 o'clock in the morning because my car battery had died, and they picked up and joyfully came and helped start my car engine back up, as well as I've been able to give to other Masons who were not able to help themselves in a time of need. The great thing that I like about Prince Hall Masonry is it helps you realize that you can navigate this world, that you don't have to feel so alone. No matter where I've gone, I've always known that there's been a Mason or a lodge nearby that I could go to and lean on should I ever need support, anything like that.
The relationship that the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of California and the California Grand Lodge, which is the FNAM, which are our Caucasian brothers. I believe that in the United States, I don't think there are two Grand Lodges that operate as well as we do.
I'm Grand Master of the Masonic Grand Lodge of California. In 1717, 4 lodges in the city of London formed the first Grand Lodge in the world. And now there are about 200 Grand Lodges in differing parts of the world that are descended from that first Grand Lodge in 1717 in London.
England's royal family has been in Masonry for many generations. Prince Edward, the Duke of Kent, Queen Elizabeth's first cousin, has been the Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of England for over 50 years. Prince Hall is the only Grand Lodge in the United States that receives an actual charter from the Grand Lodge of England. Prince Hall is listed on their website today as a recognized lodge.
Now, is there a hierarchy, knowing that we started in Europe first, and we have all these lodges in all different places, but is there a hierarchy where you have to answer?
No, every Grand Lodge is completely and totally autonomous.
Okay.
In some parts of the world, there'd be a Grand Lodge for the entire country. But in the United States, there's a Grand Lodge for every American state, plus the District of Columbia. In addition to that, we have other Grand Lodges with which we are in fellowship that operate within this. The Prince Hall Grand Lodges, for example, there's 34 of those in the United States, and the Grand Lodge of Iran, which is in exile, works in the United States. So there's more than just the 51 jurisdictions.
Okay, and do you guys do like maybe for the different levels where all of you come together, meetings once a year?
Yes, we do. There are many conferences around the world. I mentioned, may have mentioned that I just came home from Bucharest, Romania for attending the World Conference of Grand Lodges. We had around 105 Grand Lodges participate, and we'll be the host of that same conference in San Francisco. One of the things that we've inherited from our stone mason ancestors is placing cornerstones for public buildings. A cornerstone is an important stone because it's the first stone from which all the other measurements of the building are taken. So it's got symbolism for us. We are often invited, and have been throughout the years, to place a cornerstone for a new public building. An example of that, in 1793, George Washington laid the cornerstone to the United States Capitol. It's probably the most celebrated. Well, in 1861, we were invited to perform that same ceremony for our Capitol just a couple of blocks from here. So in May of 1861, the Grand Lodge of California assembled, and we conducted the same ceremony that we're going to replicate this coming Saturday.
We jointly came together and laid the cornerstone in Sacramento, California. And this event was one of the biggest events that we had did together, where we were, as in ancient times, laid the cornerstone of a building in the northeast corner.
How many members do you have?
In the United States, there are about 2.5 million members. In California, we have around 60,000 members. 50 some plus are what we call Master Masons, those who have achieved the top level in Masonry.
Okay, so speaking of that, I know that there are 3 levels. So what are the other 2 levels?
Well, a man comes into Masonry and becomes an entered apprentice Mason. Just as in the days when they were stone masons, they had to learn how to shape stones. Those were entered apprentices. The second stage in the Middle Ages was what they called fellow crafts, or fellows of the craft. And that's our second level today. And then when you have mastered what you needed to do to build a building, you were, in the Middle Ages, a Master Mason. And that's our top level today, that of a Master Mason.
What is the purpose of the Masons getting started overall?
Well, in the beginning, it was for workers to take care of their own members and their families. Working on building sites and building stone buildings was a very dangerous occupation in the Middle Ages. And if something happened to a worker, the rest of them would band together to help one another and to take care of their families, often widows or minor children, orphans. And so from those traditions of caring for one another, almost all of the rest of Freemasonry descended.
Okay, so speaking of that, I know that charity is a part of being a Mason.
It is indeed.
How does that apply into modern day times with the charity?
Well, descending from the idea of taking care of others, Freemasons quickly learned that they could use these skills to help other people that were non-Masons. Today, probably the very best known Masonic charity is that of our Shriners Hospitals for Children. All Shriners are Masons, and growing out of this concern for other people, we take care of children in these Shriners Hospitals at no cost to them or to their families.
Ah, that's interesting. So then tell me this, how do you apply the 3 different levels? I understand from the beginning in the Stone Age time. How does that apply now and today?
Let me describe it in this way. Working with stone, Stones had to be made square, had to be made true, if they were going to fit in a wall properly. So Masons early on began to apply that to their own lives, thinking that if we could improve ourselves, that then we would be better men and better participants in the world in which we lived. So nowadays, we don't build stone buildings, but what we do is to try to help our members use the symbols and the tools from these ancient times to shape their lives. So the idea is we want to live lives that are true to ourselves, that are square, ideas that help us become a better part of the larger world in which we live.
Okay, so that brings me to that, you know, some of the comments that we have and that we hear that you're your own religion. So do
Yes.
you consider that?
Freemasons have always had a belief in God. But as we moved out of the European context at the beginning of the 18th century, we very quickly incorporated men of all religions. So we developed the concept that a belief in God would be determined by your own particular religion or your culture. So as a result, we often use the term supreme being to describe God. We encourage our members to be active members of the religion in which they're involved. Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism. We have men from all religions. So Freemasonry is not a religion of itself. It requires a belief in God, but we expect a man to act that out within the faith community in which he is involved.
Many Prince Hall Masons in the United States have stayed true to Christianity. California Prince Hall Masons has the Holy Bible in the center of their lodge. Prince Hall Masons in California begin their meeting with prayer and close their lodge meetings with prayer. Masonry is not a religion. Every lodge is different. What all Masons have in common is brotherhood. A Mason anywhere in the world is obligated to help another Mason brother regardless of religion, race, or creed. A Mason is a Mason when in need.
I have been a Prince Hall Freemason for 68, so 54 years. I observed I was in the military and on an air crew, and our flight engineer was a Master Mason. Although I didn't know that, but I just observed his character and people he associated with and how he carried himself. And we were having a lunch break, and I saw an emblem, and I said, "What do you know about that?" And he said, "Well, I'm a Master Mason." "What do you want to know about it?" You know, I said, "Well, from what I've observed and the camaraderie that I've seen between you and other people, that's maybe something I'd like to get involved with." And again, being a military, and I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan, and it's kind of a closed community, and they had everything going on there. And that's how I got interested. There's several, if I could break it down, I would consider number one, the camaraderie that I have found among Prince Hall Masons. And then in the process of studying in terms of the different degrees and doing some research on Prince Hall himself, for which Prince Hall Masons are named after, who was the first black man in America to receive the degrees. And the historical account was very interesting, and his involvement to this day is reflected on how Prince Hall Masons act in their community, how they present themselves, how they perform their civic duties, which is really one of the charges, and how they're encouraged to be active in the community, take care of their families, and just the whole idea behind being a good man in terms of your family life, your community life, your church.
I met a Freemason on the plane. I had been interested in Masonry for years, but had resolved to maybe that I would never enter a lodge. But I had an interest that went back several years before I actually came in. And I met a gentleman on a flight. He was not a Prince Hall Freemason, but he was a Freemason from California, and he was very knowledgeable on the history of Prince Hall Freemasonry and its significance for the country and its significance for the African American community. And he encouraged me that if I did become a Mason, I should carry on the legacy of my grandfather, who was a Mason, and other African American Masons who sought liberation and who sought to build their communities here in America. So it became Prince Hall or nothing at all. Prince Hall Freemasonry is the oldest African American legal institution, legalized, constituted institution in the country, going back to 1775. And any institution that has lasted that test of time is an honorable institution and something to be proud to be part of. And so I'm very happy I made that decision. They have been at the forefront and at the vanguard of progressive movements within the country in the fight and the quest for liberation and justice and for bringing enlightenment to the masses. Prince Hall Masonry has, and also the liberation of African Americans in the country. So when the organization started, for most blacks in America, it was still illegal for us to even be able to read or to inform a black person how to read. And here you had black men who were integrated into free society, into mainstream white society, and at the same time uplifting those who were still in bondage. And I am excited every day and inspired every day to be a part of that. Well, I have been a member of this lodge for about 3 years now. One of the great benefits of being a Freemason is to be able to travel in your country and abroad, and to be able to go into a lodge and have a bond with brothers after they check you out, and you're duly tried to see if you are actually that which you profess to be, and you are received with this bond.
Well, let me say this as far as Prince Hall Freemasons go, is a lot of people are conditioned thinking when they see a lot of brothers together. Know this, that Prince Hall Freemasons, it's a lot of African American men that are very positive, law-abiding, assisting those in need, helping the community, and it's a beautiful thing. And that's one thing. Just know that, you know, we were on the square.
I had served in the military. I got out and went back to college, and I'm a member of a college fraternity. Having an interest in doing something for others other than myself, the fraternity route on the college scene was something attractive to me. So I became a member of a college fraternity. Now, during my tenure there, college fraternities are 100% social organizations, 100%. So after college, just being in the world, I was introduced to Masonry. My mother was an Eastern Star. My father was a Mason. I had two brothers that are Masons, but I had never ventured down that road before. But here was an opportunity to where I found out a lot more about it than I had ever known before. So I became a Mason. Let me go back a little bit. In the college fraternity, I was very, very active. But then once I became a Mason, my energy and activities swung more toward being a Mason. And for the reason that happened is that the Masonic Order is not a social club. It's not based on social prowess. It's not based on social things. It's based upon having a commitment to do something for someone else, helping someone else. It was a brotherhood that lended toward those sorts of things, which was more attractive to me about helping someone rather than being in a light.
A lot of the benefits that I see besides the camaraderie and the brotherhood are a like-minded group of people willing to go forth and do things. I mentor a lot of kids, and a lot of them ask me, why should I go to college? What's the point of going to college, right? I don't need to go to college to do X, Y, and Z. And I always tell them that even though you might not directly derive learning something from college, college is the best place to go and be around other individuals who want to better themselves, who want to kind of do things and set themselves up for the right steps. So having that type of energy and being around that type of energy is what often, leads to great things. For example, Mark Zuckerberg, right? His college roommate and him, they kind of got together and they created Facebook. Same thing happened with Bill Gates and things like that too. It was while they were in college that they met people with the same like mind and the same energy that helped them achieve great things. So one of the benefits of being in Masonry is that you are around a lot of people who are first God-fearing, and second, as they say, we make good men better. So they already have a desire to give back to their communities and be a part of their communities, and it's it helps facilitate a whole bunch of good things and good thinking. So,
for me, I think that there are lots of benefits, but the most obvious ones for me, I think, are the fellowship and the brotherhood. There's an opportunity to learn how to be a better man. And to me, that's the key, is that there's lessons here that come from, centuries of Masonry, comes from the Bible, and comes from just being good folks, man, and doing right by people, and knowing that I can be around other people who believe similarly. And they're not perfect. No Mason is perfect. No lodge is perfect. No jurisdiction is perfect, but I think there are men that are trying and striving to be better people, and those are the types of people I want to be around. I want to associate myself with folks who are trying and who want to do better, want to be better, and not just be successful, but literally be good men. And those are the benefits for me, because I get to see examples of people being better and doing better and striving to be better. I met some really great men in Masonry, and my life has been blessed because of it.
Well, the benefits in being a Mason for me is I'm able to help others. I'm able to network with some folk that I probably would not have been able to network otherwise.
I'd say some of the personal benefits of being a Mason is just it teaches you discipline. It teaches you courtesy and respect, how to, especially with your fellow brethren, and how to carry yourself as a man. I think Masonry would probably be beneficial to a lot of younger people coming up. If they would get into masonry at a younger age, I think it would teach them, more about how to become a man, and especially being a black man.
The degrees of the Eastern Stars were introduced into the colonies in 1868. The Golden State Grand Chapter Order of the Eastern Stars was organized in California in 1873. On December 27, 1882, all chapters were convened in Sacramento and the Golden State Grand Chapter of today was established. The Golden State Grand Chapter is an adopted body of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge, Free and Accepted Masons, State of California, Incorporated. The Golden State Order of the Eastern Stars is not an independent body. It can only exist under the governing of a Master Mason. His title is Worthy Patron. Other Master Masons are a part of the Eastern Stars. However, the chapter is primarily female. The head female is titled Worthy Matron.
I'm a worthy patron, or past worthy patron, H. Mike Truman. I was first the worthy matron, a worthy patron of Ella Mills number 59 in 2003. And then again, I was elected to serve again in 2008.
And I was worthy matron for Ella Mills, chapter number 59, the year of 2004, 2012, 2017, and 2018.
As I became a member of the Order of the Eastern Star in 1991, I had to learn the different seats in the chapter. And the top male position in the chapter is that of the worthy patron. The worthy patron is, unlike the worshipful master in the lodge, the worthy patron in a chapter works right next and directly with the worthy matron. His job as the worthy patron is to oversee the conduct of the chapter, to make certain that the laws and regulations are followed. And then again, just making certain that there's good harmony, good rapport, among the members, and that we're taking care of business in the way that it should be taken care of.
A worthy matron is the head officer in your chapter. One of the past matrons of Ella Mills chapter number 59 was one of the ladies that I always work with. She just came up to me and she said, "You would be perfect for Ella Mills number 59. And my question to her, what's Ella Mills number 59? And she said, is a chapter, Order of the Eastern Star. And she said, your leadership here is wonderful. You get along with everyone, and your leadership is just outstanding. We need people like you. So if I bring you an application, would you fill it out? And I said, first of all, do you get to travel? I love to travel. You didn't say anything about traveling. She said, definitely. We have grand session. We have other different chapters asking us to come and visit them. So you would really enjoy it. I said, bring me the application. So that's how I became an Eastern Star. But when I was younger, from 12 to 16, I was also in a junior group in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, because my grandmother, Rosalie Bivens, was an Eastern Star. Since I've been in the Eastern Star, I've worked with many patrons, many Masons, and I love it. The leadership that each group shows is wonderful, and I love helping people. and we do scholarships for the youth. We do visit homes, needy families. I say it's just a wonderful way to show what the world should be doing. So I love being an Eastern Star.
So a Masonic funeral is a public, ceremony that Masons perform for one another when a brother passes on to the spiritual realm. And we dress in Masonic dress similar to what I'm wearing now, with our aprons and any other things that sort of denote us being Masons. And there's a particular ceremony that sort of explains, Masonry and what we're trying to accomplish. And I think if you really listen to our burial ceremony, we're really talking about how men are one and we're all under God's sway. And we have to recognize that all of us, no matter what we're doing, we have to recognize that there is a grand architect, or there is a grand being or a supreme being that is controlling or is managing and governing our existence. And for me, the thing that I really like about it helps us put in perspective all of the striving and struggles that we go through in the human existence, in the human form, and in the flesh, for position, title, money, and all that other stuff. And at the end of the day, as we say in the ceremony, the prince and the pauper are laid side by side, and they're in the same place when they die. And so we have to recognize that all this work that we do, it's not to gain treasure up for yourself, but it's to bless the people and the individuals that you come into contact with, and to be a better person, be the best person you can be, and that includes loving and helping others. And I think that's a great lesson that I've learned through Masonry, that our lives are not our own, and that we have a responsibility and an opportunity to really leave a great legacy and a great treasure up for those that come behind us, just from being a good man. All of the negative stuff online about Masonry and how we're the devil, this, that, and the other. I'm like, well, first of all, we're not a religious organization. Do we take some of the stories from the Bible and use those as a foundational story for and to help create the foundational logic for our craft? Yes, we do. But we are a social order. We're a fraternity. We're a craft, if you will. And all we've said is that men have to believe in a supreme being, whoever that is. Because we are an international organization and we want to be the cement of brotherhood, you have to have a common ground. And for us, the common ground is you believe in some form of a higher power. You have to believe that in order to be a Mason. That is foundational. Whether that's Allah, whether that's Judah, whether that's Buddha, whether that's Jehovah, whether that's, whoever it is. At the end of the day, whether it's Muhammad, at the end of the day, we just want men who understand that they are not the captains of their own ship, that we all answer to someone, and in that we have a role, we have a responsibility. All of our supreme beings, our higher powers, have told us that the principal thing we need to do is get along with one another and have brotherhood. And that's what Masonry is about spreading the cement of brotherhood across cultures, across physical barriers, across language barriers, across philosophical barriers. And that's what Masonry has done, and quite frankly, that's what it's been able to do for the last 400 or 500 years. Masonry is a critical organization in the history of the United States. Masons have been involved in the leadership from the Revolution in the United States all the way through our current conflicts in the Middle East. They've led us through good times and they've led us through bad times. And Masons have come in all sizes, shapes, and colors, and all stations of life. The thing about Masonry is that you can be the president and you can be a janitor. But when the gavel sounds in the East and we all line up, that president and that janitor are equal, as God would have us to be. And to me, that is the blessing of Masonry, is that you can take people who are powerful in the flesh, in the natural, and actually bring someone from a lower, natural station up to an equal station with someone that we would give a lot of esteem to. And for me, one of the things that I've always liked about Masonry is it gives me a chance to serve. It gives me a chance to just be around men. Doesn't matter the station, doesn't matter where you're at. We're able to spend time and fellowship and find common ground no matter where we come from, no matter what city, state, no matter our profession. It's an opportunity for all of us to come together, and that's why I'm a Mason. That's why I'm going to continue to be a Mason. And I just pray for those who don't feel the same.
There's a misconception about Masons and the conversations over the years that I've had with folks. There's several misconceptions. First of all, there's Masons all over the world, all different nationalities, all different religions. And by the way, Masonry is not a religion. One of the first criteria to becoming a Mason is that you believe in a higher being. And this is where the misconception come in with a lot of folk, higher being.
Don't believe all the myths and all the stuff that you read on the internet about the negativity connected to Masonry. Masonry is a very positive, fraternal organization. There's nothing bad about it. If there was anything bad or negative or sinister about it, I wouldn't be involved in it, because I grew up in church. My mom had me in the church. I don't think I would be involved in anything and interact with people on a regular basis that would lead me in that, some type of a dark direction. So I don't think there's anything negative around Masonry. I think the thing about people's misconceptions is because maybe a lot of the handshakes and passes, there's passwords are secret, so they think it's some type of a secret society, but it's not. It's a regular fraternal organization, just like any other male organization around. But there's just a lot of negativity that goes on the internet, that you see on the internet, and you just can't believe all that. You just talk to a Mason, and they would basically tell you what Masonry is all about. Masonry, we have a Bible in the when we have our lodge meetings, and we do give reverence to God each and every time, and we have prayer, and it's just nothing. There's nothing bad about Masonry. It's all good. It's all positive, and I would recommend it to anybody that would consider joining the craft.
By joining Freemasonry, it has given me the opportunity to do things, to see things, but more importantly, I have met men in this organization that I would have never met. I have never gone anywhere and not met a brother. And I think that is the most important thing about being a Freemason, that no matter where you travel, there is always someone there that will call you a brother.
Hey, Yancy, come here, I got a joke. All right, there's a medical breakthrough. They developed a new science to where the father of the child feels all the pain and agony of labor and delivery, and not the mom. A husband and wife go into labor. They rush to the hospital. They hook the husband up to the machine. The wife pushes. Seizures, contractions, and boom, the baby is born. Yeah, I said seizures. It was a very difficult delivery. That's how bad it was. And yet, the husband didn't feel anything. At the end, he said, it wasn't that bad. They drive home with their new baby and find the UPS man dead on the doorstep.
Hey, Yancy, I got this one from my daughter. What is red, black, and white all over? An embarrassed zebra. Get that? You see what I did there? See, black and white. He's a zebra, but he's embarrassed. Oh, good.
As far as Prince Hall because on a lot of the culture, things that we're into, you know, as African Americans, I